This is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. We are going to talk about some breaking news on the Jeffrey Epstein front, which there's so much breaking news on the Jeffrey Epstein front that it is really hard to keep up with. This involves the fact that the Justice Department withheld and removed files related to Trump, which, of course, is likely a violation of the law. If you remember, the U.S. House voted to release the files, and the files should have been released. Then there was heavy redaction. Then we found out that there were files missing as related to Donald Trump. Now we're finding out files that are indicating that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered, and somehow those files were, made to disappear somehow. I'm going to run part of the open for my show, a little part of it here, check the audio and come back and talk a little bit more about the Epstein file situation, the fallout that's happening on a lot of people, some of whom are outside of politics, which is amazing. It does harken back to what was happening in the 2017, 2018, 2019 period where the Me Too stuff was happening and people were just getting dinged and were ending up losing their jobs, losing their positions, and everything else. But I'll run part of the open. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so anyway, to continue here. So there's a lot going on with the Epstein files. There's always been a lot going on with the Epstein files. It has died down a little bit because other news has sort of taken over, but at State of the Union tonight, there is going to be some guests in that gallery, in the upper galleries, watching live at the speech at the House chamber, who will be the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, they've been on the Hill before, so that's not that huge of a surprise. I will be inside the U.S. Capitol for most of the day, but then tonight at about 8 o'clock, I'm going to do what I'm doing right now, which is a live. I've been to a lot of State of the Unions. They're very interesting, and it is interesting being there live, but quite frankly, over the years, I've gotten the increased sense that it'd probably be safer not to be in that building during State of the Union. It's not that I think something's going to happen, but I've seen enough State of the Unions live and I'm fine with as many that I've seen. I don't need to be there live tonight necessarily. The Congressional Black Caucus has a briefing for a bunch of journalists at like 1 o'clock today. I'll go to that and I'll go to some other stuff and take some photos and do some video and then come back and do a live tonight on State of the Union. At any rate, Jeffrey Epstein, of course, is a huge story. It gets bigger and bigger. And just when you think it might go away or in some way subside, it gets bigger again. And now NPR just threw up an exclusive this morning saying the Justice Department withheld and removed some Epstein files related to Trump. This was posted at 5 a.m. this morning by a reporter with regard to, it was read on Morning Edition by Stephen Fowler. This was something that had come up before, that some files were removed as related to Trump. But I'm going to read part of this story. The Justice Department has withheld some Epstein files related to allegations that President Trump sexually abused a minor, an NPR investigation finds. It also removed some documents from the public database where accusations against Jeffrey Epstein also mention Trump. Some files have not been made public despite a law mandating their release. These include what appears to be more than 50 pages of FBI interviews and notes from conversations with a woman who accused Trump of sexual abuse decades ago when she was a minor. NPR reviewed multiple sets of unique serial numbers appearing before and after the pages in question, stamped onto documents in the Epstein files database, FBI case records, emails, and discovery document logs in the latest tranche of documents published at the end of January. NPR's investigation found dozens of pages that appear to be cataloged by the Justice Department but not shared publicly. Now, there's a link here, which I'm going to click. DOJ, this is from January 3rd. DOJ related tranche of Epstein files says it has met its legal obligations. Okay, I'm going to put up I'm going to put up the link where anyone can see what the DOJ has put up with regard to the Epstein files. Now, of course, a lot of these media outfits are claiming that this has been changed, redacted, files have been moved, files are missing, but it's still worth knowing what the Epstein files link at DOJ is. Okay, just to know that as a baseline. Now, there's been a lot of news organizations who have put up their own databases. I think ProPublica has put up their own Epstein file database. Zateo, run by Mehdi Hassan, I believe, has put up their own Epstein file database. The database is searchable. So if you're searching for a specific person's name, that name is going to come up. And, it actually, in that sense, is quite interesting. But at any rate, to go to share the tab with, share the tab with the DOJ database. I mean, this is the DOJ database for the Epstein files. Once again, as NPR just stated or reported, they're saying that certain files are missing, and there is now this story with regard to Donald Trump allegedly doing something with a minor. Now, I don't no, we don't know who this is. The person has not spoken apparently publicly, at least not to NPR. NPR is not saying that they have gotten an interview or anything with this person. But one would think that somewhere out there in the world, there probably will be an interview or some indication of maybe who this is. Uh, those of you out there who might have been watching me before know that I'm a big due process person for everybody, even people I don't like Donald Trump. Everybody should be afforded due process, the right to defend themselves in any allegation, and just the making of the mere publicity or reporting around an allegation does not make it true. So this does, of course, require some more reporting and some more looking into. Of course, what we do know would indicate that there's a lot of smoke here. I mean, we cannot ignore the fact that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were close friends. I mean, these people knew each other, they hung out with each other. We have plenty of information on that, photos, video with them at parties, etc., and so on. At the same time, you do have to be careful about this notion that just because somebody's mentioned in the Epstein files, they're automatically guilty. Because there's a lot of people who Jeffrey Epstein, contacted. There's a wealthy person that wealthy people like to hang out with. So, of course, what you get from that is a lot of people hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, that doesn't necessarily make them guilty of anything, but it is interesting to watch the number of people who are resigning from positions without too much protest. I mean, I've got that. I'm a little bit like, if you haven't done anything and you're not guilty of anything, why are you resigning? Uh, Bob Kerry, who was a U.S. senator, was on some board of something, and I think he's from Nebraska. And he goes and decides, oh, I'm going to resign from the board that I'm on because of the Epstein files. If I wasn't guilty of anything and I was him, I wouldn't be resigning from nothing. I mean, so I'm not clear on why that happened so quickly, unless you're guilty or unless you feel some sense of guilt about something, in which case, yeah, I guess you should be resigning right away. But without any real adjudication of anything, I get sort of suspicious of these things. Just to share the screen a little bit on what I'm talking about. This happened back on Feb 7. Here is some of the evidence. Here is some of the evidence of Bob Kerry's relationship with Epstein from the latest file dump. And, we've got emails where you have Bob Kerry, again, a former U.S. Senator from Nebraska who ran for president, I think, in the 90s. Jeffrey is having Peter Thiel and possibly Bill Burns for lunch at his home in New York on Saturday. Jeffrey is asking if you might be available to join. Please let me know. I mean, this is somebody emailing. This is the assistant to Jeffrey Epstein emailing Bob Kerry. Can you come to lunch or, at the house in New York? Okay, well, does that mean that he did something? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying it's a great thing to be in the Epstein files, but it is an interesting thing that this is what has blown Bob Kerry up. Alert: does Jeffrey Epstein want for lunch Ehud with Ehud Barak? I assume that's Ehud Barak and Bob Kerry tomorrow at noon. And then there's a notification here, June 3, 2013, 6:30 a.m. Does JO want to have lunch with Ehud and Bob Kerry tomorrow? I mean, these are back and forths about having lunch. Okay, you're not going to be stupid enough, of course, if you're committing serious sex crimes. You're not going to be stupid enough to put that, I don't think, in an email or text. But it is just an email and text about lunch. I mean, I think we should be candid about that. Now, here we have from the Lincoln Journal Star, reported 2 hours ago, or at least posted 2 hours ago. Former governor, oh, I forgot he was the governor of Nebraska. I don't know why I forgot he was the governor of Nebraska. That's right, he was the governor. Anyway, former Governor Bob Kerry resigned from Monolith's board after Justice Department emails showed past contact with Jeffrey Epstein. Nebraska GOP leaders called for donations to be returned. Wow, I mean, that's all it really takes. This is behind a paywall, so there it is. But that's all it really takes. All it really takes is you have been implicated, you have been mentioned. I haven't seen anything else as related to Bob Kerry. This has happened to several others. Now, you have that version of getting in trouble with the Epstein files, but then you have other versions that put people in deeper situations, okay, to say the least. And with that, we have Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra, a wellness guru who is 79 years old, has been around quite a while. And he's an alternative medicine geek guy. But again, a situation where famous people do hang out with famous people. But the stuff that he said was a hell of a lot more suspicious than what we just read about Bob Kerry. Okay. Read Deepak. This is in Fast Company, which is a tech magazine. It's been around for quite a while. Read Deepak Chopra's controversial message exchanges with Jeffrey Epstein. Bring your girls and zero in on your prey. What? That, friends, is a lot more alarming than anything else that we've seen from most people. And Deepak Chopra, as many have seen, if you're paying any attention to the Epstein files, is in hot water. I'm going to put the link for the Fast Company article, in the chat, because that is a different story. That's a different story. Now we're getting into, you're talking about the girls, you're saying stuff, sort of like the Elon Musk email about, parties and when's your next party. And that's a completely different thing. And that isn't the only one. I don't think that's the only one that we've seen on Deepak Chopra. I don't know that he's made any statement. I'll go look for it in a minute. But you know, if you are an innocent person, I believe that you come out very quickly and you say that. All right. The alternative medicine practitioner traded quips with Epstein hundreds of times from 2016 to 2019, reports reveal. Author and alternative medicine guru Deepak Chopra is the latest celebrity to come under scrutiny after the Justice Department released more than 3 million pages of files on the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. A slew of famous names pop up in the DOJ files released on January 30, including business leaders Casey Wasserman and powerful politicians like Prince Andrew. Chopra was among them. And a new investigation from CNN reveals the extent of his ties with Epstein. So this is actually Fast Company rewriting CNN's reporting. On February 4, Chopra posted on X defending his appearance in the files and distancing himself from Epstein's crimes, which include operating a sex trafficking ring and sexually abusing underage girls. I want to be clear. I was never involved in, nor did I participate in any criminal exploitive conduct. And any contact I had with was limited and unrelated to abusive activity, Chopra wrote. This is a statement from Deepak Chopra that he did make on X. Some past email exchanges have surfaced that reflect poor judgment in tone. I regret that and understand how they read today given what was publicly known at the time. So he did make a statement. And that is rough there. I mean, that is really suspicious. My focus remains on supporting accountability, prevention, and efforts that protect and support survivors. So that statement from Deepak Chopra is on X and has 6.5 million views on it. The other person, of course, that got dinged pretty hard this week was Prince Andrew. Really, last week was Prince Andrew, who was arrested. I want to be clear about what he was arrested about on. He was arrested on with regard to sharing, allegedly sharing information uh, with with people he shouldn't have shared information with that did not necessarily have anything to do with sexual crime, sexual violence, so forth and so on. It wasn't really, when he first got arrested, it wasn't really made clear what the actual details and reasons behind the arrest were. There was the, of course, immediate assumption that they were related to sexual abuse. And of course, Prince Andrew is in a picture with Victoria Giuffre that is extremely suspicious, right? I mean, you're with some young girl with your arm around her, and now that photo has surfaced and it just looks terrible, right? And the thing about Prince Andrew, of course, is he did a very major interview some years ago. That was probably 2018 or 19 or so, maybe a little later. That was probably a little later, 2022, 23. I'll go look. And he bombed at the interview. He's terrible. His affect is terrible. There's an air of arrogance, and it really didn't work out too well for him, to say the least. And so that was a disaster. And I got a little comment here from Mr. Durko or Mrs. Durko. Adolf Trump, ICE, MAGA are terrorists, traitors, and Nazi cowards. Okay. But join me for the State of the Union tonight at about 8:30. I'll come on and probably watch in real time the things that Donald Trump does. At any rate, we'll get to that when we get to it. Let's talk about Epstein right now. So at any rate, Prince Andrew, but the fact that Prince Andrew was arrested at all is pretty shocking. Unprecedented situation. Um, and I rely usually on the BBC, and when we do anything related to news coming out of Great Britain, they're extremely good, as are the Guardian. But man, the BBC and the Guardian are quite good. Police asking, this was 3 days ago on the 19th when it happened. So February 19, 2026. Police asking Andrews protection officers what they saw or heard as part of the Epstein files review. Police asking Andrews protection officers what they saw or heard. This is a story from BBC by Adam Goldsmith. I'm just going to read the first three paragraphs. The Metropolitan Police say it is contacting Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's protection officers, asking them to consider whether anything they saw or heard while working for the former prince may be relevant to ongoing inquiries. Separately, Thames Valley Police is continuing to search Andrew's former Windsor home, Royal Lodge, in connection with the arrest yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The BBC understands officers are expected to continue their search of Royal Lodge over the weekend. Remember, this is 3 days ago, so over the weekend would have been this past weekend and into Monday. And today, of course, is Tuesday, February 24th, so that would have been into yesterday. There's been no sign of the former prince since his release from custody and return to Sandringham in Norfolk last night. So obviously, this is a huge, huge story, an unprecedented situation of a member of the royal family being arrested as related to the Epstein files. But once again, it was not in direct relation to sexual violence. It was in relation to trafficking information that apparently was in some way classified, special information that he was not supposed to be. Let's see how CBS said it. What CBS said about this the other day.
As you probably heard, former Prince Andrew was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office in England Thursday, stemming from his involvement with financier Jeffrey Epstein. Elizabeth Palmer is in London.
Snapped by a Reuters photographer as he left police custody, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor looked stunned. Once a dashing royal and younger brother to King Charles, the former prince's arrest made history this week, and not in a good way.
How exceptional is this?
Mark Stevens is a London lawyer.
Last week's really been entirely unprecedented. Certainly in the modern era, we've never had an arrest of a member of the royal family.
The police are now searching Andrew's royal homes for...
Now, I don't know why they haven't mentioned why he was arrested, but let me listen for 1 second.
Evidence in a widening investigation into misuse of public office.
Misuse of public office. Okay, now that, of course, could mean a lot of things. Of course, we have to wait until more details come in on that. The point of the fact of the matter is that, whether it's misuse of public office or some other misconduct, it is still completely unprecedented that any member of the royal family would be arrested. But it is interesting to watch the difference, isn't it, between the United States and how the United States is handling the Epstein files and how things are going in other parts of the world, namely France and England. I mean, they are arresting people. They're not they're not fooling around at all, and it is very interesting to watch. Okay, so at any rate, tonight at the State of the Union, there are going to be Epstein accusers attending the Trump State of the Union. And that is going to be not surprising. I mean, they've been on Capitol Hill a lot, so that's not new. I mean, that is something they've been walking around Capitol Hill to hearings on the Epstein files. Pam Bondi's hearing, who she of course is the head of DOJ. They showed up in force at that. They've showed up when there was the debate on the House floor over the Epstein files, and they really show up in, I would say, a group of about 20 to 25 people. That has been that has been quite interesting to watch, because their presence has really provided a lot of these members of Congress who are wanting these files to be out a lot of cover, because they're really doing a lot of the messaging. The folks that are the accusers, they're saying exactly what their concerns are, what they want to see happen, so forth and so on. So when they say they're going to be at the State of the Union tonight, by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, you're just going to hear from them at 9 o'clock at night. I mean, they, I suspect, will be doing interviews into the run up of the State of the Union. There's all of these State of the Union related events tonight that are alternative events to the State of the Union. And rallies, and there's something at the National Press Club, which is in Washington, D.C., that's a completely alternative event, State of the Union. And so all of that happening, plus this, is what you're gonna see is a ton of alternative programming. At any rate, just to read some of the Mercury News piece on this tonight, Democrat lawmakers plan to bring people who say they were victimized by sex offender Jeffrey Epstein to President Trump's State of the Union address on Tuesday. Maryland Rep. Jamie Raskin announced in a statement Monday that he and Virginia Representative Suhas Subramaniam will be joined by the brother and sister-in-law of the Epstein survivor, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who died by suicide in April. That was April of 2025, tragically. She alleged that Epstein trafficked her to powerful men, including England's former Prince Andrew. He's been convicted of no crimes, but was stripped. Prince Andrew, has been convicted of no crimes, but was stripped of his royal titles over his relationship with the accused trafficker who died in jail in 2019. That died in jail, by the way, I'm going to go over right now. There's some files coming out indicating that the DOJ was referring to Jeffrey Epstein's death as a murder, which is a big story that's breaking starting yesterday and into today. But at any rate, this is going to be interesting. I'm sure that Jamie Raskin and Suhas Subramaniam of Virginia they're not going to be the only ones who have members of, I should say, accusers of Jeffrey Epstein at the State of the Union. I mean, that is a alternative move that a lot of people have been engaging in. And you can bet that they will not be the only ones who will have certain individuals at the at the State of the Union who will be related in some way to that story. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar. I have a comment here on on the Epstein list. I can't imagine that they were guilty, no explanation. I don't know. We have to search. I mean, you can search the files to see who. Like, we search that right now. Let me see. Joy Behar. You see, a lot of names could come up in this. You have millions of documents, and again, you're talking about a rich guy. Let's see what happens here. Well, when I search Joy Behar, I get no results for that search on the DOJ site. And of course, Whoopi Goldberg. such a distinctive name. If she's in fact in here, that should pop up pretty quickly. And yeah, no results found. I'm searching the library, so I'm not saying that, look, I mean, you got to realize, of course, as I said at the top, the library has been, a lot of people say that these files are not what's complete in the library. Okay, so there's that. But I'm just saying, on that search, I didn't see anything. And if you want to know what it looks like when somebody's name does pop up, let me show you that. Let me show you what it looks like when you search for someone who's in the Epstein files. Oh, wait. If her name's not coming up, something must be wrong. Wait, Kathleen Rumler is definitely in there. And when I searched the other day, her name did come up. So let's due to technical limitations and the format of certain materials, portions of these documents they may not be electronically searchable. That's weird because they sure as hell was searchable the other day when I did it. Let me just check one thing here. Because Catherine Rumler is definitely in the Epstein files. Yeah. And I did it the other day and her name really, a bunch of documents came up. Now, the Justice Department is not the only place to search. And that is something to understand because, the Justice Department doesn't necessarily want you to know certain things. We know that, of course, we already know that they were protecting Donald Trump. So, okay, here we have another, I'm just going to share screen with this. We have another searchable database of the Epstein files. And that, friends, when you search certain people like Catherine Rumler, of course, all these PDFs come up. Okay, so this thing that I'm looking at, like I said, there are other people who have searchable Epstein files. They have put their databases up as well. It's not that difficult to create a database, right? I mean, it just isn't. And so a lot of people have created their own databases, taking the Justice Department information and then putting it into, and I'll do Whoopi and Behar in a minute, but just to have this link, this is another searchable Epstein database. And there's, again, it doesn't have to be this one that I'm putting in. There's other people. I mean, if you search Google, if you just use Google and say searchable Epstein database, like there's a lot of other databases that come up. So I wouldn't just be beholden to the government. For those of you out there who certainly have indicated in the past, certainly conservatives have indicated in the past that you can't necessarily always trust the government. I would agree with that. And particularly in this case where you have a sitting president of the United States involved. And that sitting president of the United States becomes extremely agitated when this topic comes up. He does not want people, talking about the Epstein file. So let's try Joy Behar in this database. And yeah, so wait, Joy Behar does come up in that. She is mentioned. Miss Joy Behar, it says something about, let me see, Fiona, Vogue, something in Vogue. I don't know what that is. She only comes up once because the next name is Abby Behar. Let's try Whoopi Goldberg. That's weird, though, that Catherine Rumler didn't come up when I did that because I literally did it back on Nothing for Whoopi, but I literally did it back like maybe 3 days ago, and a ton of stuff came up, and I was really, really surprised how easy it was to search that database because a lot of these databases you're searching and you start realizing, well, nothing's hitting. So I don't know whether they changed something at DOJ. I mean, I tend to doubt it because it is billions of files and it would be hard to play around with that. And, why? So now let's get to the last topic of this live, which is whether or not Epstein was murdered. There was some reporting yesterday that several people had noticed in some of the files that there was a reference by DOJ. Aaron Parnas was really the first one to find it and report it and throw it out there. And Julie K. Brown, who is the preeminent journalist on this topic, the preeminent journalist on the Epstein files, is Julie K. Brown. I highly, highly recommend her Substack. In fact, I will put the link to that Substack in the chat, because that Substack, which one of the few that I've run into that is actually worth the money that you would put into it. I mean, this thing is unbelievable. I don't know how much she's charging, but it's probably not enough. They keep taking the files down. Yeah, Michelle, I hear you on that. So this is the Julie K. Brown Substack, and Julie K. Brown was one of the first reporters to break this thing wide open and keep on it and pay attention and do the things that journalists are not doing enough of these days on a myriad of topics on the right and the left, which is just good, hard-nosed, shoe leather journalism. And Julie K. Brown does a really, really good job and has been for years. And so this to me, when I see Aaron Parnas and Julie K. Brown looking around this idea that maybe he was murdered, which is always the suspicion, because a guy doesn't die with that type of controversy around him, and he dies like right before the moment when things could have been revealed. That made absolutely no sense. At any rate, Aaron Parnas yesterday, just to finish this up, in 2020, 1 year after Jeffrey Epstein died, an assistant U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of New York discusses a confidentiality agreement in connection with the investigation into the murder of Jeffrey Epstein. Excuse me. And then there's the document. Okay. I'm in ASUSA in the Eastern District of New York and working on the investigation into the death of an inmate at the Brooklyn, I don't know what MDC stands for, probably corrections. That last C is probably corrections. The OCME told me that it signed a confidentiality agreement in connection with the investigation into the murder of Jeffrey Epstein. We are hoping to extend a similar agreement, and I wanted to see if you could share the agreement or a boilerplate version of it. I'm happy to speak on the phone. If that's easier, my cell is et cetera and so on. The date on this is June 11, 2020. Wow. And that right there is something that everybody has been thinking was going on, because his death was just unbelievably well timed for anybody who wanted to hide what was going on in the Epstein files. But anyway, Aaron Parnas on February 22nd, it wasn't yesterday, it was February 22nd, in 2020, a year after Jeffrey Epstein died, assistant U.S. attorney in connection. Okay, I'm reading the wrong thing. Julie K. Brown is the thing. So Jeffrey Epstein murdered Julie K. Brown wonders out loud. Why did the Manhattan Medical Examiner sign a confidentiality agreement in connection with the investigation into the murder of Jeffrey Epstein? And why are the names redacted in this document? That's a really good question. I'll end right there, because that is going to be explosive. That's going to be the next story. What was he murdered or not? And that of course has been something a lot of people have been wondering for years. And now to Michelle's point, Michelle Freitag, thank you for watching. Thanks everybody for watching and hitting the like button. These files are being removed, and they keep being taken down. And I'm seeing over Don Lemon is doing his show at 10 a.m. in about 20 minutes on that very topic. DOJ scrubs Trump Epstein documents. Again, that's the breaking news I was talking about earlier with NPR. Yeah. So why are they taking the files down? And I've been talking to Thomas Massey a lot. He's a Republican member who is really versed on this, about how he could know or not know what was in the files or what wasn't in the files, and how they check that. How do you know what's in there? How do you know what was taken out? Well, they're checking against something. I don't know whether they're checking against the Epstein estate files or checking against what has been put in by various attorneys of various clients of alleged victims and confirmed victims of Jeffrey Epstein. But they are checking against something. They know that files are being taken down and put back up, et cetera, and so on. So that part is quite interesting. People who are never, to me, it's scary because they are so massive that anything can be thrown into. I agree with that. I mean, again, I'm a big due process person when it comes to this. I don't like the idea of people getting damaged without proof and evidence, and just because they were mentioned. There's a lot of people who are going to be mentioned when you have a guy who's a multimillionaire that knows a ton of people. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be mentioned. And just because you're mentioned doesn't make you guilty. But a lot of times you can see through the evidence and the patterns of behavior of Jeffrey Epstein that some of these people are going to be guilty, but then some of them are going to be innocent. Some of these people that are mentioned in these files are going to be just people who emailed about a meeting. And I think the Bob Kerry thing might be an example of that. So we do have to be careful about who gets dinged and who doesn't. I'm all for throwing people in jail, and I'm all for going after pedophiles and throwing them in jail. Believe me, I come from a family of cops. I totally believe that that should happen, but we should not waste time on people who were just mentioned and didn't really do anything. Because that's a waste of time, a waste of police resource, a waste of law enforcement resources. So at any rate, that's it. I am going to be at the State of the Union. I'm going to be talking about State of the Union tonight at 8 o'clock. If you want to join that, thanks everybody for joining. The Epstein files will be in the news for weeks to come, because anytime you have a story that has evidentiary documents, evidence, photos, video, redaction, and then we're trying to figure out what's under the redaction, and we're going back and forth with that, you are going to have a story that has legs, because now you have hard evidence of something. At the very least, you have hard evidence that these people were contacting him. Now you got to get behind that and find out what's behind that evidence. But there's a lot here that has to be unpacked. And as you can see, stuff is dropping that is incredibly incriminating in some cases, particularly as regards to photos and video and stuff that has been coming out. And now the Justice Department is running around again, taking files down, putting files up, and all sorts of stuff like that. Thanks for watching. There's Lauren Burke. There's Lauren Live. I'll be back tonight at about 8 o'clock, talk about State of the Union. I'll be inside the U.S. Capitol for most of the day today. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button. Really appreciate it.
Somewhere. What's going on? Thank you. Are you watching now?
Yeah. No, I was watching on the left, but it's excellent. I love it. I love the traffic's blowing up. You were in Brooklyn last night. Where?
I was in Bushwick.
Okay, my grandmother's house is in Crown Heights.
Oh, yeah.
So when I saw you, I was trying to look at what the pizza place was to see where
As soon as we got there, someone recognized the pizza place. They're like, we got to get out of here. Someone had
get out. It was great.
blown up our spot.
This show is freaking fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it, man. Love it.